The Discourses of Christ of the Last Days. To fulfill one's duty well, understanding the truth is most crucial. Now, is it clear in your heart whether you are a member of the house of God? Have you truly entered the house of God? Based on what I just fellowshipped, can you measure this? Can you be sure that you have entered the door of God's house and are a member of the house of God?
We are sure.
It is a good thing that you can be sure. This is proof that your belief in God already has a foundation and that you have taken root in God's house. Those who lack a foundation are outside the house of God, and God does not acknowledge them. What if you testify for God and tell others that you are a follower of God and a member of the Church of Almighty God, but God says that He does not know you? That would be a problem, right? Would this be a blessing or a curse for people? It is not a good sign. Therefore, if you want to gain God's approval and say that you are a true believer in God, you must do some things that benefit the work of God's house. Prepare some good deeds, direct your heart toward God, and have a heart that honors God as great. Only then will God acknowledge you. First, you have to change the errors in your views, attitudes, and practices with respect to God and the truth, as well as the wrong path you've taken. These things must be changed. This is the foundation. Then, you have to accept all the truths expressed by God and fulfill your duties as God requires. When these things are achieved, God will be satisfied and He will acknowledge you as His follower. Second, you must gradually let God acknowledge you as a true created being, one that is up to standard. If you are still outside the house of God, and God has not yet acknowledged you as a member of His house, but you say that you want to be saved, isn't that just a fool's dream? Now, you have experienced some chastening and discipline, have God's grace and blessings, and your faith in God has a foundation. This is a good thing. The next step is to be able to achieve life entry based on an understanding of the truth, to turn these truths into your own life and live them out, to apply them in performing your duty and in all the things God has entrusted to you. Then you will have hope for salvation. Most of you are not of poor caliber. You can all be considered average in caliber. There is hope for salvation, but you all have some shortcomings and flaws in your humanity. Some of you are lazy, some talk big, some are arrogant, and some are a bit dull, numb, and intransigent. These are matters of disposition. For some problems of humanity and disposition, you must seek the truth through experience, reflect on yourselves, and accept being pruned in order to realize progressive change and achieve experience and depth in regard to your comprehension and understanding of the truth. In this way, you will grow in life little by little. With life, one has hope. Without life, there is no hope. Do you possess life now? Do you have understanding and experience of the truth in your heart? How much and to what extent do you submit to God? You must be clear on these things in your heart. If you are not clear but muddle-headed, it will be difficult to have life growth. In the church, there are those who think that making a big effort or doing a few risky things means they have accrued merit. In fact, according to their actions, they are indeed worthy of commendation, but their disposition and attitude toward the truth are loathsome and repugnant. They have no love for the truth, but are averse to the truth. This alone makes them abhorrent. Such people are worthless. When God sees that people are of poor caliber, that they have certain failings, and have corrupt dispositions or an essence that opposes Him, He is not repulsed by them, and does not keep them away from Him. That is not God's intention, and it is not His attitude toward man. God does not loathe people's poor caliber. He does not loathe their foolishness, and He does not loathe that they have corrupt dispositions. What is it that God most loathes in people? It is when they are averse to the truth. If you are averse to the truth, then because of that alone, God will never find delight in you. This is set in stone. If you are averse to the truth, if you do not love the truth, if your attitude toward the truth is uncaring, contemptuous, and arrogant, or even repulsed, resistant, and rejective, if this is how you behave, then God is utterly disgusted with you, and you are dead in the water, beyond saving. If you really do love the truth in your heart, yet are of somewhat low caliber and lacking in insight, and a bit foolish, if you often make mistakes, but do not intend to do evil, and have simply done a few foolish things, if you are willing at heart to hear God's fellowship on the truth, and you long at heart for the truth, if the attitude you take in your treatment of the truth and God's words is one of sincerity and longing, and you can treasure and cherish God's words, this is enough. God likes such people. Even though you may be a bit foolish at times, God still likes you. God loves your heart, which longs for the truth, and He loves your sincere attitude toward the truth. So, God has mercy on you and is always granting grace to you. He does not consider your poor caliber or your foolishness, nor does He consider your transgressions. Because your attitude toward the truth is sincere and eager, and your heart is true, then, considering the trueness of your heart and this attitude of yours, He shall be ever merciful toward you, and the Holy Spirit shall work on you, and you shall have hope of salvation. On the other hand, if you are hard of heart and self-indulgent, if you are averse to the truth, never heedful of God's words and everything that involves the truth, and antagonistic and scornful from the depths of your heart, then what is God's attitude toward you? Loathing, revulsion, and unceasing wrath. What two characteristics are evident in God's righteous disposition? Abundant mercy and profound wrath. The abundant in abundant mercy means that God's mercy is tolerant, patient, forbearing, and that it is the greatest love. That is what abundant means. Because people are foolish and of poor caliber, this is how God has to act. If you love the truth but are foolish and of poor caliber, God's attitude is of abundant mercy toward you. What does mercy include? Patience and tolerance. God is tolerant and patient toward your ignorance. He gives you sufficient faith and tolerance to support you, to provide for you and help you, so that you may understand the truth bit by bit and gradually mature. Upon what foundation is this built? It is built upon the foundation of one's love and yearning for the truth, and their sincere attitude toward God, His words, and the truth. These are the fundamental behaviors that should be manifested in people. But if someone is averse to the truth in their heart, is repulsed by it, or even hates the truth, if they never take the truth seriously and always talk about their accomplishments, how they have worked, how much experience they have, what they have gone through, how God esteems them and has entrusted them with great tasks. If they only talk about these things, their qualifications, achievements, and their talents, always showing off and never fellowship on the truth, their testimony to God, or fellowship on understanding gained from the experience of God's work or their knowledge of God, are they not averse to the truth? This is how being averse to the truth and not loving the truth is manifested. Some people say, how can they listen to sermons if they don't love the truth? Does everyone who listens to sermons love the truth? Some people just go through the motions. They are forced to put on an act in front of others, fearing that if they do not participate in the life of the church, the house of God will not acknowledge their faith. How does God define this attitude toward the truth? God says that they do not love the truth, that they are averse to the truth. Within their disposition, there is one thing that is most fatal, even more fatal than arrogance and deceitfulness, and that is being averse to the truth. God sees this. Given the righteous disposition of God, how does He treat such people? He is wrathful toward them. If God is wrathful toward someone, sometimes He reprimands them, or disciplines and punishes them. If they do not deliberately oppose God, He will be tolerant, wait, and observe. Because of the situation or other objective reasons, God may make use of this disbeliever to render service to Him. But as soon as the environment allows, and the time is right, such people will be kicked out of the house of God, for they are not even fit to render service. Such is the wrath of God. Why is God so profoundly wrathful? This expresses God's extreme hatred for those who are averse to the truth. God's profound wrath indicates that He has defined the outcome and destination of such people who are averse to the truth. Where does God class these people? God classes them in the camp of Satan. Because He is wrathful toward them and sickened by them, God shuts the door on them. He does not permit them to set foot in the house of God, and does not give them the chance to be saved. This is one manifestation of God's wrath. God also puts them on the same level as Satan, as filthy demons and evil spirits, as the disbelievers, and when the time is right, He shall eliminate them. Is this not one way of handling them? Such is the wrath of God. And what awaits them once they have been eliminated? Can they ever again enjoy God's grace and blessings and the salvation of God? People in the age of grace often said something like this: God wants every person to be saved and does not want anyone to suffer perdition. Most people can understand the meaning of these words. It is the emotion and attitude of God in saving corrupt mankind. But how does God save mankind? Does He save all of mankind or only a part of it? Which part does God save and which people does He abandon? Most people can't penetrate to the heart of this matter. They can only talk to people about doctrines. God wants every person to be saved and does not want anyone to suffer perdition. There are too many people who say this, but they don't understand God's intention at all. In fact, God's intention is to save only those who love the truth and who can accept His salvation. Those who are averse to the truth and refuse to accept God's salvation are those who deny and resist God. God not only will not save them, but He will ultimately destroy these people. Although those who believe in God know that His love is infinite, vast beyond compare and mighty, God is unwilling to give this grace and love to those who are averse to the truth. God will not give His love and salvation to these people for nothing. This is God's attitude. Those who are averse to the truth and do not accept God's salvation are like a beggar looking for food. No matter whom they beg for food, in their hearts, they not only lack respect for their benefactors, but also mock and hate them. They would even rather snatch their benefactors' belongings for themselves. Would the benefactors be willing to give food to such a beggar? Certainly not, because they are not truly pitiable, but rather too detestable. What is the benefactor's attitude towards such a person? They would rather give food to a dog than give it to a beggar such as this. This is how they truly feel. What kind of people do you think are those who are averse to the truth? Are they those who resist and oppose God? They might not openly resist God, but their nature essence is to deny and resist God, which is tantamount to openly telling God, "I do not like hearing what you say. I do not accept it. And because I do not accept that your words are the truth, I do not believe in you. I believe in whoever is profitable and beneficial to me." Is this the attitude of non-believers? If this is your attitude toward the truth, are you not being openly hostile to God? And if you are openly hostile to God, will God save you? He won't. Such is the reason for God's wrath toward all who deny and resist God. The essence of people like this, people who are averse to the truth, is the essence of hostility to God. God does not treat people who have such an essence as people. In His eyes, they are enemies and devils. He would never save them. In the end, they shall be plunged into disaster and destroyed. What do you say if a beggar eats their benefactor's food and scolds, ridicules, mocks, and even attacks their benefactor? Will the benefactor hate them? Most definitely. What is the reason for this hatred?
Not only is the beggar not grateful to their benefactor for giving them food, but instead they mock, ridicule, and attack the benefactor. Such a person has absolutely no conscience or reason, and no humanity either.
What attitude should the benefactor have toward this beggar? The benefactor should take back the things they originally gave to the beggar, and then kick them out. They ought rather to feed these things to dogs or wild animals than give them to this beggar. This is the consequence that the beggar has brought upon themselves. There is a reason why God is so profoundly wrathful toward one person or one type of person. This reason is not determined by the preference of God, but by that person's attitude toward the truth. When a person is averse to the truth, this is undoubtedly fatal to their attaining salvation. This is not something that can or cannot be forgiven. It is not a form of behavior or something that is fleetingly revealed in them. It is the nature essence of a person, and God is most sickened by such people. If you occasionally reveal the corruption of being averse to the truth, you must examine, based on God's words, whether these revelations are due to your antipathy toward the truth or from a lack of understanding of the truth. This requires seeking, and it requires God's enlightenment and help. If your nature essence is such that you are averse to the truth, and you never accept the truth, and are particularly repulsed by it and hostile to it, then there is trouble. You are assuredly an evil person, and God will not save you. What is the difference between non-believers and those who believe in God? Is it just a difference in religious conviction? No. Non-believers do not acknowledge God, and in particular, they cannot accept the truth expressed by God. This proves that non-believers are all averse to the truth, and they hate the truth. Is it a fact, for instance, that man was created by God? Is it the truth? Then, what is the attitude of people who believe in God when they hear this? They acknowledge and believe this absolutely. They embrace this fact, this truth, as the foundation of their faith in God. This is what accepting the truth is. It means accepting, from the depths of our hearts, the fact of man's creation by God, gladly being a created being, willingly accepting the guidance and sovereignty of God, and acknowledging that God is our God. And what is the attitude of those who do not believe in God when they hear, man was created by God?
They do not accept or acknowledge it.
Besides not acknowledging it, what is their reaction? They will even mock you, doing all they can to try to use this against you, ridicule and make fun of you, look upon you with contempt, and heap scorn upon these words and this fact. They may even adopt an attitude of mockery, sarcasm, contempt, and hostility toward all those who acknowledge these words. Is this not being averse to the truth? Do you hate them when you see such people? What do you think? You consider, man was created by God. That is a fact. It's indisputably true. You don't accept this. You don't recognize your origins. You are truly ungrateful. You are unconscionable and treacherous. You truly are the ilk of Satan. Is that what you think? And why do you think like this? Do you think this way just because they don't like this statement? And what causes such an averse mentality to arise in you?
It is because of their attitude toward the truth.
Your anger would not be so great if they respected these words as ordinary words, as a theory or religious conviction. But when you see repulsion, antagonism, and scorn arising in them, when you see them coming out with words, attitudes, and dispositions that denigrate this statement of the truth, you get angry Is that how it is? Though some people do not believe in God, they respect other people's faith and do not try to tear down the matters of faith spoken of by others. You do not have any aversion or loathing toward them. You can still make friends with them and live in peace with them. You will not become enemies. In fact, there are a small number of non-believers who you can get along with. Although they cannot accept the true way and become members of God's house, you can still get along and have dealings with them. At least they have a conscience and reason. They don't scheme against you and will not stab you in the back, so you can associate with them. Toward those who try to tear down the truth, who are averse to the truth, you feel anger in your heart. Could you be friends with them?
No.
Apart from not being friends with them, what else do you think of them? If you were asked to choose how you would treat them, how would you treat them? You would say, man was created by God. That is a fact. That is the truth. And what a great and hallowed thing that is. Not only do you not accept this, you also try to tear it down. You truly have no conscience. If God gave me the power, I would damn you. I would smite you. I would turn you to ash. Is that your sentiment? This is a sense of justice. But when you see that they are devils, the sensible thing would be to ignore them, to stay away from them. When they speak to you, it's fine to just play along. This is the wise thing to do. Deep down, though, you know you are on a different path than such people. They could never have faith in God. They will absolutely never accept the truth. Even if they did believe in God, He would not want them. They deny and resist God. They are beasts. They are devils. They do not follow the same path as us. Those who have genuine faith in God are unwilling to come into contact with devils. They are right when they don't see any devils, but when they do, they immediately resist them. Their hearts will only feel at peace if they never see any devils. Some people always talk about the affairs of God's house to non-believing devils. These are the most stupid people. They don't distinguish between insiders and outsiders. They are bumbling fools who understand nothing at all. Can God save people who are capable of such absurdities? Absolutely not. People who always have dealings with devils are disbelievers. They are definitely not of the house of God, and sooner or later, they will have to return to Satan. Some people cannot discern who is a brother and a sister, and who is a non-believer. They are the most muddle-headed people. They tell disbelievers and devils about the affairs of the house of God. This is like throwing pearls to pigs and giving dogs what is sacred. Those disbelievers and devils are like pigs and dogs. They are classed among the brutes. If you discuss with them the affairs of God's house, you will appear foolish. After they hear it, they will casually slander the house of God and the truth. If you do this, you will fail God and owe a debt to God. The affairs of the house of God must never be discussed with disbelievers and devils. People are annoyed, resistant, and unwilling to come into contact with those who don't like the truth, are averse to the truth, or slander the truth. So how do you think God feels? God's disposition, God's essence, what God has and is, God's life, and God's essence as revealed by Him are all truths. A person who is averse to the truth is, without a doubt, a person who opposes God and an enemy of God. This is more than a matter of incompatibility with God. For people such as these, God's wrath is immense. You all have something of a foundation now, and you can be counted as members of God's house. You must pursue the truth diligently, and in the process of performing your duties, constantly examine your own words and deeds, examine your various states, and strive to gain some changes in your disposition. This is a valuable thing. Then you will truly be able to come before God. At the very least, you must make God accept you. If you can't reach the level of Job and lack the qualifications that would lead God to personally wager with Satan to test you, at least you can live in the light of God by your actions and conduct, and God will care for and protect you, and acknowledge you as one of His followers and a member of His house. Why is this? Because ever since you acknowledged and believed in God, you have constantly sought how to follow God's way. Because God is satisfied with your behavior and your sincerity, He has led you into His house to receive training, to be pruned, and to accept His salvation. What a great blessing! Starting as a person outside of God's house who knew nothing about God or the truth, you accepted God's first test, and after passing it, God personally led you into His house, brought you before Him, entrusted you with a commission, arranged duties for you to perform, and let you perform some human duties within God's management plan. Although it is some inconspicuous work, after all, you have God's care and protection, and you have received a promise from God. This blessing is sufficiently great. We'll put aside being crowned and rewarded in the next life, and just speak of what people can enjoy in this life. The truths you hear, the grace, mercy, care, and protection of God that you enjoy. Even the various sorts of discipline and chastening God gives to you, and the provision of all these truths that God gives to man. Tell me, how much are you receiving? In the end, in addition to understanding these truths, God will also completely save you from the camp of Satan, so that you change into a person who knows God, possesses the truth as your life, and is useful in God's house. Is this blessing not a big one? This is God's promise. After God brings you into His house, He tells you, you are blessed. By entering the church, you have the hope of being saved. Maybe you don't know what's going on, but in fact, God's promise has already been given to you. At the same time, God is doing all these things to fulfill this promise, supplying the truth, pruning you, giving you duties, and entrusting you with commissions so that your life will grow little by little, and you will become a person who submits to and worships God. Have people now received this promise? there is still a way to go before the day of its achievement and fulfillment. In fact, some of you have already received it, and some of you have the determination but have not yet received it. It depends on whether you have the determination to grasp this promise and are able to fulfill it. Everything that God does is given to people step by step, at the proper time, and in the proper measure. There are never any mistakes, so you don't have to worry about being foolish, of poor caliber, young, or having only believed in God for a short time. Don't let these objective reasons affect your life entry. No matter what God says, first, it allows people to accurately know and measure their actual stature and caliber, and come to know their own measure. Second, in the positive aspect, it gives people a deeper understanding of the truth and allows them to enter into the truth reality and perform their duties well so as to satisfy God's intentions. These are the purposes of God's words. To achieve these things is actually very simple. As long as you have a heart that loves the truth, there's no difficulty. What is the greatest difficulty for humans? It is that you are averse to the truth and don't love the truth at all. This is the greatest difficulty. It involves a problem of nature. If you don't truly repent, it may spell trouble. If you are averse to the truth, and you always slander the truth and hold it in contempt, if you have this sort of nature, you will not easily change. Even if you change, it remains to be seen whether God's attitude has changed. If what you do can change God's attitude, then you still have hope of being saved. If you can't change God's attitude, and deep down in God's heart, He has long been averse to your essence, then you have no hope of salvation. Therefore, you have to examine yourselves. If you are in a state where you are averse to the truth and resist the truth, this is very dangerous. If you often produce such a state, often fall into such a state, or if you are fundamentally this sort of person, this is even more of a problem. If you are occasionally in the state of being averse to the truth, first, it may be due to your small stature. Second, man's corrupt disposition itself contains this sort of essence, which inevitably gives rise to this state. However, this state does not represent your essence. Sometimes a fleeting emotion may produce a state that causes you to be averse to the truth. This is only temporary. It is not caused by your disposition essence that is averse to the truth. If it is a temporary state, it can be reversed. But how do you reverse it? You have to immediately come before God to seek the truth in this aspect and become able to acknowledge the truth and submit to the truth and God. Then this state is resolved. If you don't resolve it and let it go on and on, you are in danger. For example, some people say, "Anyway, I am of poor caliber and cannot understand the truth, so I will stop pursuing it, and I don't have to submit to God either. How could God give me this caliber? God is not righteous." You deny the righteousness of God. Isn't that being averse to the truth? It is the attitude of being averse to the truth, and a manifestation of being averse to the truth. There is a context to the occurrence of this manifestation, so it is necessary to solve the context and root cause of this state. Once the root cause is solved, your state will disappear along with it. Some states are like a symptom, such as a cough, which may be caused by a cold or pneumonia. If you cure the cold or pneumonia, the cough will also get better. When the root cause is resolved, the symptoms disappear. But some states of being averse to the truth are not a symptom, but a tumor. The root cause of the disease is inside. You may not be able to find any symptoms by looking on the outside, but once the disease occurs, it is fatal. This is a very serious problem. Such people never accept or acknowledge the truth, or even constantly slander the truth like the non-believers. Even if the words never leave their lips, they keep on slandering, rejecting, and refuting the truth in their hearts. No matter which truth, whether it is knowing oneself, acknowledging one's corrupt disposition, accepting the truth, submitting to God, not doing things in a perfunctory manner, or being an honest person, they do not accept, admit, or pay attention to any aspect of the truth, or even refute and slander all aspects of the truth. This is the disposition of being averse to the truth. It is a sort of essence. What kind of outcome does this essence lead to? Being spurned and eliminated by God, and then perishing. The consequences are very serious. Did today's fellowship on these things help you?
Yes. I know what is good caliber and bad caliber. I have some real understanding of my own caliber, and I can accurately measure myself when things happen to me. I'll not be arrogant and self-righteous, but perform my duty in a down-to-earth manner.
No matter what aspect of truth we fellowship on, it will be helpful to your life entry. If you can take these words and incorporate them in your daily lives, then what I have said has not been in vain. Every time you come to understand a little bit of the truth, you will be more accurate in doing things, and your path will open up a bit wider. If you know few truths and you don't have a clear understanding of your actual stature and caliber, you will always be inaccurate in doing things. Always overestimate yourself and evaluate yourself too highly, and do things based on notions and imaginings, but without knowing, thinking instead you are acting based on the truth. You will regard these notions and imaginings as truth principles. The deviation in the things you do will be extremely great. If these human notions, imaginings, knowledge, and learning are dominant in people's hearts, they will not seek the truth. If the truth becomes what is second, third, or even last in your heart, then what holds power over you? It is your satanic disposition and human notions, philosophies, knowledge, and learning. These things are sovereign over you, so the work God does on you will not be effective. If God's words and the truth have not become your life within you, then you are still far from being saved. You have not stepped onto the path of salvation. Do you think God's heart is not anxious? How much mercy does God have to show you to put you on the path of salvation? If you can escape from traditional culture and knowledge and satanic philosophy, learn to measure all these things with the truth based on God's words. Use truth principles as standards for monitoring things, and perform your duties well. Then you will truly become a person with the truth reality, a person with the ability to live independently. At present, you are not at this level. You still have a way to go. You just have a little life, and you still have to live by God's mercy, love, and tolerance. This means your stature is too small. If you were given a task, would you be able to complete it independently? Could you do the job well? If you make a mess of things, this is resisting God and dishonoring God. If you get halfway through your job, but then go off to have some fun, doesn't that show you to be a bit unstable? It shows that you are not a reliable worker and that you do not do your job properly. You will always need people to watch over and supervise you if you are to do your duty. Some people in their 30s and 40s still have this character. It's all over for them. They will accomplish nothing in their lives. If you are in your 20s and have only believed in God for 2 or 3 years, you can be forgiven for being a person of small stature. Instability, unreliability, always having to be looked after, protected, reminded, exhorted, and guided by God, always needing to enjoy these graces of God, living by relying on these graces, and being unable to do without any of these things. This is being too small in stature. You are in this condition now. If things are not completely spelled out for you, you will sometimes make a mistake and make a mess out of your work. If any little thing is not explained to you, you will go astray, which is a constant worry for others. On the outside, you are all adults, but in fact, you do not have much life in your spirits. Although you have the will and sincerity to perform your duties, and you also have some genuine faith, you understand too little about the truth. In doing your duty, you are completely reliant on God's grace, blessings, guidance, and reminders to move forward. Anything less and it won't go right. So, which aspect of God's righteous disposition is manifested in you? His abundant mercy. And of course, this is the principle of God's work. Why have you still not enjoyed God's trials and refinements? It is because you do not possess such stature. You are too small in stature. You understand too little of the truth. You can't penetrate to the core of anything. You get confused when you encounter difficulties. You don't know where to start. You always cause people to worry, and no matter what duty you perform, other people have to teach you to do it step by step, requiring too much effort on the part of others. Everything must be spelled out for you and repeated more than once. Otherwise, it won't go well. Ordinary things have to be said 2 or 3 times, but after a while, you will forget and it has to be repeated several more times. What sort of person is this? This is a muddle-headed person who doesn't put their heart or their mind into what they do, and who is unqualified to labor. Can such people understand the truth? it is definitely not easy for them to understand the truth, because their caliber is so poor and they cannot rise to the level of the truth. Some people are small in stature, but they can learn something after going through it once, twice, or 3 times. If they can comprehend, understand, and grasp the truth after hearing fellowship on the truth, they are people of caliber. It is not a big problem to have caliber, but to be of small stature. This is only related to the depth of such people's experience, and is directly related to the depth of their understanding of the truth. After more experience and a deeper understanding of the truth, their stature will naturally grow.